Yes guys, welcome down to the channel. My name is Andy Carter and today we are talking driver. How do we get the driver going longer and straighter? What are the power sources within the golf swing that can help us generate more speed, more power, but also not lose accuracy? Because as you can see behind me right now, this is one golf hole where I need speed because I need power and I need accuracy. I need good technique. I do not want to be hitting this ball left, and I certainly don't want to be hitting this ball too short. Now, obviously, if you are a higher handicap golfer, you don't hit the ball too far, you will be trying to plot your way through this hole with the fairway kind of sweeping up towards the right-hand side. But we're talking today that the subject of today's video is how can we hit this ball further? Okay, so that was a pretty decent shot, pretty happy with that. More importantly, it's dry and it's on the fairway. Wind for today is off the left-hand side, so I was quite brave. I kind of hit it towards that left bunker and just let the wind hit it with my little bit of a fade in there as well. Now, three things I'm going to be talking about today. Width in the golf swing, speed in the golf swing, and just general technique and importance of strike and the consistency of kind of doing that with the previous 2 points. Now, width is one of the first things I'm going to get onto because golfers I often see a lot of golfers start to sway their body away from the ball to try and create as much width as possible. Now, there's no denying that that position there is a wide position. The problem is I'm a long way away from the golf ball, so now I've got to have to try and spend a lot of my downswing manipulating my body and my momentum to get back to the ball to create a decent strike. So width is all about using your lead arm. So as your club goes away, that's as wide as my golf swing can go. The club head is a slight extension of my left arm with a little bit of wrist hinge. My left arm, that's as long as it is. That's as wide as my golf swing can go. From there, we're going to be using the wrist. So as the body rotates, the hands, the hips, the legs, the torso, everything rotates together. Golf swing is all about matchups, isn't it? So if I have a golf swing that rotates here, but my hands don't really do much, then my wrist angle and my club face position is not really matching up to the rotation of the rest of my body. So we're going to come on to that in a second, but just as we start to do width, one of the key things I like to do is put the right hand in behind the back, or the trail arm in behind the back, and just let the club just push away, just using your shoulders, using your hips. I don't want this club to feel like it's heavy, okay? So if you use the body correctly, the club won't feel really, really heavy. If you just try and lift it like this, then straight away you'll notice that the lead arm, the elbow breaks. So I want to try and keep this left arm quite straight and just keep that width there. I've got a little bit of hip turn, I've got my shoulder turn as well. My shoulders are pointing directly at my hands. My left arm has stayed nice and straight, and now I've got width. If I just move my arms to go wide, the chances are the elbow is going to break, the club's not as wide as it could be, and I've created another lever in my golf swing, which I now on the downswing will have to manipulate again to get it back into position to strike the ball. So it's an unnecessary lever in the golf swing that we don't want. Now, in terms of flexibility, I do see a lot of golfers that do need to create this little bit of lever to get the club a little bit further up to the top of the backswing, and that's absolutely fine as long as we're using the hands. And that brings me on to point number 2 quite nicely, because golfers often try and steer the ball. So you get onto the tee, and this is an absolute classic example of not really wanting to make a mistake, not wanting to hit the ball in the water, and golfers will often kind of steer the ball and push the arms and pull the arms back here, and you've got to try and make sure that we don't fall into that trap. One of the things I often say to the golfers that I teach is golf's all about matching up. So if you've got your lower body rotating, your shoulders rotating, then your hands and your arms and your wrist angle, they also need to rotate in conjunction with the rest of your body rotating. Because what happens is the lower body starts to turn, the upper body starts to turn, but the hands don't do anything, then you're going to get into a position where the left elbow is going to break, and that's what we're going to lose. That's where we're going to lose that width that we were talking about earlier. But also, as we start to come back down, one of the big power points of the golf swing is the release of this golf club, because the hands are going to add a lot of speed towards the end of your golf swing. It's going to give you that little bit more club head speed, ball speed, and therefore give you a little bit more distance. So one of the things we've got to try and make sure is, as we get to the top of the backswing, as the lower body starts to uncoil to the target, hips and then shoulders, that goes all the way down to the arms, and it goes down to the wrists to release, and then we continue the momentum up through the shot. This hole is an absolute classic example of a golfer that probably would be a little bit wary of the water and wary of kind of mishitting it, and start to stiffen up, particularly in the wrists. Golfers that stiffen up in the wrists will go back into width again now, because golfers that stiffen up in the wrists will now start to bend the elbows. And as they come through the shot, everything starts to fall back away from the ball, and the hands almost don't move. Golfers try and stabilize the club face through impact to therefore try and keep it straight. But again, if we approach this from a match-up perspective, if you rotated your lower body, your shoulders up to the top of the backswing, but haven't released it back down to the ball, the club face is not going to be square. Therefore, generally, if the club face is not square, golfers will generally hit the ball off towards the right-hand side, and we all do this. This is not aimed at a specific golfer. I do this. You get under a pressured situation or anything like that, and you're scared to really commit to the shot. But actually, when you look at it in hindsight, if my body's rotated this way, my hands have rotated, I've got a nice wrist hinge at the top of the swing, on the way back down, we need to make sure everything rotates back to the ball again to get this club face back to square. But also, this sort of movement here is going to allow a lot more speed, and we call it flash speed. Flash speed can be a bad thing for golfers, particularly young junior golfers, that's all they can really create. They haven't got the power in the body to kind of create any more distance or any more speed. So a lot of golfers generally do use flash speed, and going into their adult life, flash speed then starts to become a problem as the body gets stronger. It's pretty much described myself down to an absolute T there, because that's something I do. I have flash speed through the hands because I didn't have any power in my body as I was growing up, so I've just kind of maintained and kept my same golf swing. But what we want to try and do is be able to match that through swing up to the downswing and the backswing, and making sure that as the backswing rotates, the left arm stayed nice and straight or very close to straight. We've got the hands hinging as we go back. Then on the way down, everything's got to be released back into the ball, A, with confidence, but B, also making sure that you're aware that you need to do it. The last thing we're going to talk about is just general consistency of strike. Now, when I'm hitting the driver, I want to be hitting kind of more up onto the ball. So I want the golf club to land closer, in a couple, 3 to 4 inches behind the ball, and then as it's coming into the ball, it gathers the ball on the way up. This now reduces spin. If I hit a golf shot on the down, that's encouraging more spin. That's why we would do that with wedges and your irons, because we're hitting down into the ball, get the ball airborne to reduce spin, to maximize spin. With the driver, we want to make sure that we're trying to reduce the spin, so the head's going to stay a little bit more behind the ball that's set up. So we'd have golf ball, club head, and then your own head behind the golf ball. I think it's a really good way of kind of figuring that out and trying to get a feel and an understanding of where you should be. The lower body is always going to be a little bit more tilted towards the left side or your lead side. So that means that your spine angle as a result is going to be slightly leant back away from the target. Again, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking minute angles, okay? So we don't want to see anybody kind of like this too much, okay? We've just got to make sure we go straight, the little tilt forwards there. Get the head back behind the ball, get the hands tilting forwards, and get the lower body ever so slightly forward as well. So then the pelvis goes forward, but the spine angle stays back. That's going to give me a consistency in strike. That's gone tiger line. That needs to fly. That's a brand new Pro V1. Oh my God, that's massive. Just like that. Just do that. That was I don't know if I aimed in the wrong direction, because I absolutely pured it. Gone straight over the bunker this time. Happy with that. Happy with that. So any part of the golf swing, we want to be making sure we've got width in the swing. We want to make sure that lead arm kind of rotates away with the shoulders and the hips. We get that width and we keep the club head away. We want to make sure that we don't kind of sway. Coming back to that drill, trail arm behind the back, and just use the hips and the shoulders to kind of create that width as you start to swing the club away. Wrist angle is very important. We're going to make sure that the shaft just starts to kind of hinge upwards through the wrist. And then on the way down, we're going to make sure the upper body and the head stays behind the ball, and we release everything into the ball equally. And by equally, I mean just the match-up. So making sure that as the body's rotated away from the ball, we're matching up on the way back down, making sure the lower body's going to clear on the way back down. The hands are also going to release back into the ball. And we can just hit drives like that. I've hit 3 out of 3 fairways. I've brought no range balls with me to do these tips. I've got 12 brand new Pro Vs in the bag, and thank God they all survived this tip. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tip. Any questions, do please drop in the comments below and I will answer them all as ever. Any tips that you want me to try and follow as well, following on from today's tip, or anything that's not quite related to today, please do also comment below. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. And from the incredible, beautiful Alzora Golf Club, I'll see you in a bit.